Welcome to Critical Junction episode 51. I'm Mark.
I'm Luke.
I'm Jill.
And filed under our ever-expanding category of how the hell can people believe this shit, today we're discussing the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, more commonly known as Mormonism. So originating in the 1920s by a well-known con artist and subject to some 30 criminal actions, including bank fraud and treason, Joseph Smith, Mormonism is a sect of Christianity that uses the King James Bible as its official scriptural text, alongside the Book of Mormon, which, according to them, is said to contain lost truths and which they hold to be equally as divine as the Bible itself. Some of the more outlandish beliefs held by adherents of the Mormon faith include special quote-unquote temple garments, which most people simply refer to as magic underwear, that supposedly provide protection against temptation and sin for some reason. These garments are seen as sacred, the removal of which is to be kept at a strict minimum. There's also the notion of polygamy, which would be fine were it not for the fact that only men are permitted to have many wives, why not the other way around, and the fact that Smith is said to have had at least 40 wives in his lifetime, some as young as 13 years of age or younger. Oh yeah, and the Garden of Eden was in Missouri, dinosaur fossils are a test of faith, there were people who dressed as Quakers who lived on the moon, and the Earth is 7,000 years old. Smith, who had in March of 1826 admitted in his trial to defrauding citizens by organizing gold-digging expeditions that led nowhere and claiming to possess certain necromantic powers, is said to have discovered the Book of Mormon written on golden tablets in the fictitious language of Reformed Egyptian after having been visited 3 times by the angel Moroni. The book dictated how ancient prophets supposedly fled Jerusalem in 600 BCE and fled to America, thus explaining the origin of the indigenous North American population. Of course, only Smith was able to decipher these tablets with the aid of special magic seer stones, though tablets and stones he steadfastly refused to show to anybody. But rather than question these flabbergastingly outrageous claims, Mormons simply accept them as, if you'll pardon the pun, gospel, because why the fuck not? Foolhardy gold-digging expeditions? Yeah, fuck you. Fraud and treason? Go fuck yourself, Smith. Magic seeing stones, mysterious golden tablets, and mystical virtue-preserving underwear? Totally cool, because God. So let's return to the original question. How the hell can people believe this shit? Let's talk about that, shall we?
The how?
How the hell can people believe this shit?
Well, by not being very smart. But I mean, really, it's if you don't have the faculty to determine it or to investigate, or even the desire to investigate.
That's
right?
just it. I think it's the desire to not want to investigate it, because anyone can develop these faculties. Like the whole notion of critical thinking is a class you can take in college, right?
Yes, but it doesn't mean that they have.
No, exactly.
Like, sure, everyone can.
And I think it's due a
possibly.
lot in part because of unwillingness to explore it further and to question whether these beliefs are true, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, that's the kicker. Is this true? The whole idea of Mormonism, or Latter-day Saints or whatever, is founded on an outrageous lie. Like, I'm not talking about like a little lie either, like saying you're in a band in order to get laid or something. It's a fundamentally huge lie.
Yeah, the funny thing about this one is that there really is proof that he was a liar.
Yeah.
Like he's full on a con man.
He was a professional con.
He was accused of treason. He was accused of bank fraud. He was convicted of these things.
But that can all easily be hand waved away as just persecution of a prophet, right?
Prophet. Profiteering. Hey-o.
So any actual evidence that you bring of his character as a professional con man, any evidence you bring is just to them, to hardcore believers, evidence that he's persecuted.
Right. And like I don't want to make it seem like we're focusing on or we're saying that Mormonism is false because Joseph Smith was a con man. That'd be like that's an ad hominem. But the beliefs built into the faith are bullshit. And that's why the faith itself is itself bullshit.
Yeah. Going back to the question of why people actually do believe. So I've noticed that when people talk about how the church started and you know they have to talk about Joseph Smith actually doing all these things, which clearly indicate to any objective viewer somebody who's pulling shit out of his hat.
Anus.
Anus hat.
Yeah,
Anus
out of
hat.
his anus hat. And often there's like a knee-jerk there's a knee-jerk talking point to say, oh no, he didn't start any church. He's restoring the Church of Jesus Christ, which Jesus himself started. So this guy who 2,000 years later, or 1,800 years later, did whatever it is he did, and because of that, we now have a Mormon church or we have a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints that just wasn't existing before Joseph Smith came along.
Right, it's special. It's special pleading.
It's special pleading. It's semantics. Like, he definitely started what is known as the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints today.
It is kind
but
of
they will deny that on some kind of sophistic argument that no, this is the church that Jesus started, but didn't exist then after Jesus for 2,000 years until Joseph Smith came along and made it exist.
And that's one of the reasons
because
why
it didn't exist between Jesus.
Right. Well,
even if you grant that Jesus did start the church, it didn't exist after Jesus and before Joseph Smith.
Like, one of the things that they believe is that no one else outside of the faith actually receives priesthood, because theirs is the only true faith, having been restored by Joseph Smith to the original teachings of Jesus Christ as they were originally.
Well, this is textbook cult practice.
And I haven't even mentioned the overt racism that came with the church in its early days. Like, this idea that black people weren't allowed to be priests, like, that was doctrine within the church. They deny it because they're saying, well, it never actually was doctrine. It was just something that influenced how the church was organized. But it was fucking doctrine. Like,
I love that they even make Native Americans white.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, they made Jesus white.
Basically, they're saying that all current Native Americans are somehow corrupted versions of the original Native Americans because they're no longer white, right?
Yeah. So, well, they came over from
how
Jerusalem.
How fucking racist is that?
They came from Jerusalem.
Oh yeah,
they fled persecution and came to America.
Everybody in Jerusalem is white.
Absolutely. The bastion of the Middle East is pure white. It's completely white.
I guess if we were to start a religion, though, it would be wise to grab a religion that already exists and basically build a sequel onto it, and also this.
That's what that's what Islam does too, right?
Yeah.
They glom onto something that already kind of works. So that's what Christianity is.
Right.
You've got this whole long thread of dominant cults or okay, let's call them religions that get built up as like some kind of social meme that has uses and has mechanisms that reinforce them and all this kind of stuff. So once you get this kind of power structure, if you find yourself not being able to benefit from one of those power structures, it's not that hard of an intellectual leap to think, hey, maybe since I can no longer benefit from that, and since that is actually giving us a hard time, then why don't we just start our own? And to give us some credibility, we say that no, you're old and busted. We're actually the new hotness, and
there's new hotness,
and we're actually credible because we don't deny the source of what your religion was. We're just saying that you're doing it wrong now because you stopped listening to God, and you're no longer part of that kind of evolving thread of the religion, right? We're the ultimate point.
The way I like to look at it is Joseph Smith is the 19th century equivalent of L. Ron Hubbard, and Mormonism is like an early kind of idea of Scientology. It's the same kind of principle.
Right.
They were both bullshit artists who created this bullshit story and turned it into a bullshit religion.
I'm pretty sure that L. Ron Hubbard was heavily inspired by Mormonism when he created his own Scientology religion. Like that was like a very immediate and recent example of how you can start a religion that actually sticks.
Right.
And you know, this just happened in the early 1800s.
Yeah,
right?
It's been 200 years.
Like Joseph Smith was born in 1805.
Right.
And it wasn't till at least the late 1820s that he actually starts spreading this shit around. He claims that he got visions or whatever, or was spoken to God when he was as young as like 15 years old or something. But that's just his story. When we actually see him actually pushing this stuff and conning other people with this, it isn't till later, till he's actually an adult.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So what did presenting this scenario for a religion give this Mr. Smith guy?
Power.
Like it gave him power at the time.
It was during the time when they were first settling Salt Lake City, Utah, right?
Right.
So I think in one way it allowed him to establish himself as some kind of authority figure for the caravan of settlers who were moving into that general area. Just because they were all motivated by this religious idea of divine providence, right? So him having been spoken to by God gave him that edge over everyone else, and he kind of created that cult of personality thing around himself while he was spreading all this bullshit about how he'd received visions from this angel, about the golden tablet, and it was a New Testament that, you know, that the prophets came from Jerusalem to North America and all this other bullshit, making this place that they were going to the promised land, right? So him at its head would be like, you know, he was the first president, as they call it, of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Cult of personality.
Mm-hmm. I'm curious to know.
Yeah, so he, I mean, didn't he like the whole like multiple wives stuff and tithing and all this? This is stuff that started with him.
What's tithing?
Giving a certain
giving 10%
of your salary or your earnings.
Your earnings
to the church.
To the church.
I see.
Yeah. I mean, that now they do a lot of charitable missionary work, but there's strings attached, right? And
well, they call it tithing because
and God knows how much of that money actually goes to helping other people rather than building their giant fucking churches.
Yeah, have you seen the size of their main church in Utah? It's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember seeing the chart of people that basically seem to get the money, and it's a bunch of like old white bald guys that look like businessmen.
Like Mitt Romney, for example. You know?
Yeah,
he's an open Mormon with his magical underwear. Let's talk about the magical underwear.
Tell me a bit about it, because I honestly don't know much about it. I have a collection of Bibles and religious books that I keep in my bathroom, and I've tried to read the Book of Mormon, and it's rather boring. Like, it's not a well written book in the sense that I can pick up other Bibles and read them, and they're interesting, and you can find something in there, and there's something to it. Whereas this book, I looked through it, and I couldn't really get interested. I wasn't interested. It was boring.
Right.
Yeah.
From what I could see, you know, there may be. I mean, I don't know much about it.
There's some pretty blatant, on a textual analysis of it. There's pretty blatant evidence that it's an imitation of King James style speech. They kind of excessively use these like filler words that sound King Jamesy, but that
don't actually have any context or meaning to them.
I guess that's what I'm getting at. It seems to have no substance at all.
Also, there's stuff in there that's literally sentences that are lifted, like cut and pasted from Matthew. From one of the Gospels of the New Testament. So yeah, it's pretty funny. They put in a lot of so forth here, and henceforth thou shalt, and
very King Jamesy.
Yeah, but on a professional analysis, it's obvious that it's somebody doing what I was just doing incompetently. You know,
Right.
like somebody imitating.
You can start your own religion right there.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, the magic underwear. So this is they're called temple garments, and they're supposed to preserve people's virtue and protect them against sin and whatever else. And you're supposed to wear them as much as possible. Like, you know, you can take them off to wash them and go to the bathroom or whatever. But aside from the necessary taking off thereof, they should be on your person pretty much always. Like, it's this white kind of roby type thing. It's supposed to be.
They're onesies that are shorts.
Yeah, and they have like
and
a
they're short
codpiece.
sleeved and the legs are shorts.
Yeah, magic underwear. So it's a shield against sin, I think, is what the idea is.
Yeah. I mean, I think it comes out of the whole modesty.
Yeah.
It's basically like a hijab that you wear under your clothes kind of thing, you know?
I see. Would it have served as like an identifier? No, because it's underneath your
because
clothes.
it's underneath your clothes,
It's really a
No,
magic shield against sin.
Because he thought including clothes would be just part of it. Like, what's
I
the
honestly
intention?
don't know what the context was, but I think it might have something to do with.
I'm sure a whole bunch of the lore and stuff that grows in a church when you're building a religion, you like at some point you got to start just throwing in stuff that's arbitrary, right? But that just is it just bolsters and fills in.
The more you have, the more tangible it becomes, kind of thing.
I'd love to be at the writers' table for the magic underwear scene. Like, what were they pitching when they included this? Right?
Yeah,
Like, well, what can we need some kind of modesty thing. Like,
Keep it simple. Keep it cheap.
Underwear. What about underwear? Let's just the underwear is magic and it protects people. It's like a shield, right? Okay, stay with me now. Okay, so we'll have this underwear that people can't take off.
I saw an interview with a Mormon who was talking about the magic underwear, and it was funny seeing her.
I was just
I can't remember where I saw it, but at one point she has to say to reference it or refer to it, and you see her catch herself and not want to say underwear. She has to say
undergarments,
underclothing.
Underclothing.
She says like just no. Come on, like
It's
you
underwear.
know you want to say underwear
Because it
but
is.
you know that it's silly sounding or something. By
Right.
just calling it underwear.
Well, but the whole point of me bringing this up is because there's a lot of sexual repression in Mormonism, and that's obvious. All you have to do is like go to Pornhub and look up Mormon porn, and you'll get all these fucking hits about it.
It's funny how it comes out to the.
We'll have to
antithesis
link
of
that underneath.
Now it
the-
turns
that'll
us
be
on. It turns us on to be repressed. It's so hot.
There's so much repression, and it makes no sense. Like, holding these urges back is just going to make people want to go out and fuck more, right? It's just...
Yeah. But I mean, it's not even repression, right?
Yeah.
Like, I mean,
Even
when
repression?
all of the I mean, it's not evenly distributed, that repression.
Okay.
When a big chunk of the church can, when the men can have, pretty much as many wives as they want, but
Oh, it's sexist.
there's not a single
repression.
woman
I
that
see,
can have two husbands, right?
Because then you're an outcast and a slut, and you have to be banished or whatever.
I
Or
see.
cleansed,
Like,
I think.
I mean, come on, that's
Just blatant sexism.
how does anybody accept that just because somebody claims that it's God's will? Like,
Yeah.
isn't that fucked up to you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, religions are generally fucked up.
Sure, but no, about that specifically, the like this concept of polygamy that is
Well,
completely one-sided on half of the world's population.
So yeah, it's the one-sided nature of the polygamy that bothers the fuck out of me. If both sexes were allowed to take as many partners as each of them wanted to, I'm cool with that because I have no reason to or no place to judge that kind of behavior.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's just one half, men specifically, who can have as many fucking wives as they want, and the women have to sit there and take it. Fuck you, Mormons. Like, sorry,
Well,
but
I'm thinking of the historical context there. I mean, it would probably have appeared less fucked up then than it does now. in the sense that...
That doesn't make it right, though.
No, I'm not saying that it does. I'm just saying historically it was already very sexist.
Yeah.
It still is sexist now, like our social construct.
Well, it's the same argument they make about...
It's not an argument.
No, it's not an argument, but it's the same argument they'll try to invoke to defend the idea of slavery. Well, everyone was doing it back then, therefore the Bible was just giving instructions about how to treat your... No, slavery's immoral. That... point final, there's just you can't get around that. Sexism is immoral. Sorry, Mormons, your behavior, the stuff built into your religion, telling men they can have as many wives as they want, is blatantly immoral.
One thing I find interesting is the just that any black people can be part of the church. There are black people in the church,
right?
But
they can't be part of the priesthood.
They can't be part of the priesthood.
Oh, weird.
Yeah, that was a doctrine brought in by...
This is still the case?
It was brought in by Brigham Young.
Brigham Young. That guy's like a blatant racist.
Yeah. Yeah. This was spelled out. He was saying how it's... black people are, by their nature, unable to become part of any higher divine aspiration, just because that's the way God made them. And it was a defect, according to him. Blatant racism, overtly racist.
Yeah.
But oh no, that's just something that influenced the position of the church. It was never doctrine. Fuck you. No, it was doctrine. It was a racist doctrine. It still is. Yeah. You guys are racist. Live up to it.
Yeah, own it.
Just own it.
When was what year was this guy?
Late 1800s, I think.
Yeah. He actually knew Joseph Smith.
Yeah, they were contemporaries.
Okay. Yeah. So the whole thing was this was Joseph Smith's con to begin with, but I think Brigham Young is the one that really churchified the whole thing.
Right.
Really kind of solidified it and gave the whole thing structure.
He's the David Miscavige of Mormonism.
Exactly. Brigham Young is the David Miscavige of Mormonism.
Yeah, he went hardcore on it, made it into a legit church, and started introducing his racist policies in there. Yeah. What the fuck?
So there's another relation between
also
another commonality.
I've been saying "fuck you, Mormons" a lot, and
parallel.
Don't want to get sued, so please don't sue Church of.
Well, you can
Jesus
just say,
Christ.
"In my opinion, fuck you, Mormons."
Okay. Yeah. In my opinion, fuck you.
It is my opinion that you go fuck yourself. Just without discrimination. I just want to say, in my opinion, go fuck yourselves. Yeah. Just to protect the podcast.
Go fuck anybody who tries to push some paternalistic
dogma of some sort.
Dogma, yeah. That's completely prejudiced.
Well, I do feel that as human beings, we accidentally fall into promoting some sort of a dogma. I mean, even you guys perpetuating that logic will necessarily lead somewhere that is good. For example, it may be better, but
yeah, you've made this claim before.
Yeah,
and we've tried to.
See, here's the thing: dogma requires unquestioning adherence to itself. Whereas things like critical thinking, by their very nature, encourage you to think and question the thing that's being presented to you.
Yes. I'm just talking about, in a sense, what it leads to. For example, I have no issue with something that isn't necessarily true leading to good things. Like if we can create a parable that isn't necessarily true, and we can get some good results from it, and it unites people, and people are all getting along. I don't really see an issue with that.
Yeah, you're making the argument that we don't necessarily want to break the spell.
What do you mean, the spell?
So there's this idea in Dan Dennett's book Breaking the Spell: Religious as a Natural Phenomenon. There's this idea that by analyzing the church from an academic or scientific, or not the church, but religion in general, from a kind of scientific perspective, and deconstructing it and really teasing out its mechanisms and how it works and why it works and all this kind of stuff, that in some sense is a project that is breaking the spell, and the spell is what's useful. So the whole idea of just having faith in it and you shouldn't analyze it because then you're fucking with people's faith, and if it's useful to them and doing good things for them, then you're wrong to be actually applying the intellectual integrity that you might want to aspire to in every other aspect of your life. If you try to apply it to this is an important enough spell that it shouldn't be broken. And if you teach the if you just teach the kind of empirical mechanisms of how it works, then you will be robbing those people of the usefulness they can draw from not knowing
I see.
the nitty-gritty of how it works.
It's kind of like showing someone how the movie was made, and so the movie now sucks.
Or showing someone how a magic trick was done.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But I think
that's the metaphor.
Yeah, like, I think it is important to get to the truth of a claim, right? Because when it comes to ideas like religion, and we'll go with the example of Mormonism, you can say that they do a lot of good things because of their religion. But they could do those things equally well, if not better, if you remove all the supernatural elements that go along with a religious belief and just have them do good for the sake of being good to other people.
Do good for the sake of good.
Any of those good doings that you defend the church by, right? Are any of them possible without the church, or are any of them impossible to do without the trappings of the church?
Right, because along with those trappings,
the answer is always no. Like anything that you can do as part of that particular church's organization, you can do with a secular organization or a competing religion's organization.
See, because along with those trappings comes all sorts of other beliefs that have no basis in reality.
Right.
Beliefs influence actions, and actions have consequences. They'll what you believe in will influence who you vote for, what policies to support, who you associate with, who you ostracize, who your in-group is, who your out-group is, and it just, the more, your beliefs will influence your actions, and your actions will, like I said, have consequences. In some cases, a lot of cases, when it comes to religious belief, those consequences are extremely negative because of the repression that the religion instills. You know, hate gay people because God does. Don't give them the same rights because they're not human.
Yes.
Black people are not the same as white people.
I was throwing this idea of that.
Not my views, by the way. Those are the views
that a non-reality can be okay. And I'm not necessarily saying that it is the case. I'm just throwing that idea out there. I guess I'm almost saying, just so we know, everyone in the podcast, when I say something, I don't necessarily believe it. I'm just throwing an idea out there, kind of thing, to test it in the water and sort of.
Sure.
But what I'm getting at though is that.
Sorry.
What I'm pointing at is that not everything can be tied down in terms of communication and logic and stuff like that. So there are some things that slip out, the froth pouring out of the side of the cup here. Like, not everything can be defined.
Right. Some things escape our
grasp.
Our grasp.
Or whatever,
our analysis,
however we want to put it. Those things
Sure.
do exist.
Yeah.
And it's important to not lock down, in a sense, into the dogma of logic being the end and all of all things, in that it can be captured, kind of thing, right?
Sure, it may not be the end all of things with which to communicate complex ideas, but it's one of the most consistently reliable tools we have at our disposal to explain how reality functions.
Right, it is a real tool.
Yeah,
you can say.
It's a more reliable tool.
What we're talking about is reason, right? It's the only tool we have for separating dangerous falseness or deceit from
reality,
reality, credibility, truth. You know, like we have labels and stuff that we put, like logic and reason and stuff like that, and then some people try and sort of oversimplify them and claim some kind of false equivalence, like that's just a competing dogma, but that's That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what even religious people share as human beings, which is the fact that they have a faculty of reasoning, and we've been able to suss out some of the mechanisms of reasoning and some of the kind of formulas for getting closer to something that looks like reality versus pitfalls that lead to deceit that get you to believe something opposite to reality, right? And the by trying to just call that another dogma, which is scientism, quote unquote, then you're really missing the mark.
What I'm getting at is that I equate, in a sense, logic with being a map of reality.
Okay.
And then we can say, for example, you can create a map that is not of reality, it's just something else, and you will look at that and it will lead nowhere. Mm-hmm. But what I'm getting at is that even if you have an accurate map, where are we going and what are we going to do with it is still on the table.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is that we can get caught up in feeling that logic is leading somewhere, kind of thing. Sure, we're filling out the map, kind of thing, right? And that is reality, but still, what are we to do with this map and where are we going?
Well, I think,
still on the table.
I think where it ultimately leads to is understanding, like greater understanding of reality and our place therein, and just, reality in general. That's where the map leads to, I think. But
I'm thinking of this guy there, the dumbass, the guy that didn't understand Wittgenstein. What's his name?
Shut up.
Russell.
Right. I was going to say Russell Crowe. No, it's Russell Bertrand.
Bertrand
right?
Russell.
This deducing, ripping everything apart and atomizing, deconstructing. It's not going to really present anything.
Calculus thing.
It's still just filling out the map of what we can say is reality. Sure, it's it's a representation of reality, kind of thing. But it still doesn't address, I guess, what would be or has become the moral issue of things. It doesn't give us any.
Well, no. I mean, it's not supposed to. That's not its purpose. I mean, the purpose of logic isn't to suss out a moral understanding of anything. It's simply a tool we have with which to interpret things.
Right.
Like reason is a faculty that we have to which we apply logic in order to make sense of a given scenario. Like morality is its own separate entity, and that is something to which you can also apply logic and reason to. Right? It would be reasonable to say that it's immoral if you have, for example, if your foundation for morality is well-being, then you can say with reason that it's immoral, therefore, to cut off somebody's head. Objectively, that is an immoral action, right? Because that is in conflict with that person's well-being, and you can make that objective determination if you accept that as your foundation, right? So that's something you can reason out and something you can apply logic to in order to come to that conclusion. But logic in itself has no real end goal aside from that mapping out of different situations and different realities. If that makes sense. I don't know if I'm making sense at all.
Yeah, I immediately think of the analogy of chopping off someone's head and that being deemed not a good thing. But it all depends on whose head it is, and there can be yeses and nos to all sorts of different.
Morality is situational, and every action that you take will either be moral, immoral, or amoral, depending on the situation that it's rooted in. But within every situation, there's a finite set of actions that you can take toward a certain end, and a certain part of those actions will ultimately be the right ones. Right? And you can determine those objectively to say which ones fit into those three categories. Right? Ultimately, there will be an objective moral position that you can hold in any given situation.
There can be.
But there is. Right? Because there are... Well, this is going to be... We should save this for the morality episode. I'm not going to talk about it anymore.
That's
So
it.
We
there.
can talk about morality every day.
That is an upcoming episode, and I look forward to doing it. But for now, back to Mormonism and their magic underwear.
Yeah. Well, tell me more about because you guys have looked into Mormonism, and I have not. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to hear more about how ridiculous it is. In a
Okay,
sense.
well. So one of the other things that is sort of parallel with Scientology is that Mormonism also has this sci-fi element. They mention
Right, yeah.
They mention a star called Kolob, which is basically the heavenly body that's closest to God. And
Okay.
yeah, and
God's special star.
it's
Really? Wow.
a star or planet because for some reason God failed so hard at astronomy that he didn't know the difference between a star and a planet.
Flunked to that course.
And so this revealed text that is the word of God that talks about Kolob doesn't get the science or the facts right about,
So was it
how
getting-
his universe works.
So not even within that time frame in history was it getting it accurate.
No,
No.
that's right. That's
Not at all.
yeah,
Okay.
that's right. Because Joseph Smith wasn't an astronomer by any means.
He was an astrophysicist.
He was
He
a
didn't-
kid in the Midwest who had a family that was super superstitious and were like into trying to dig up treasure and stuff like that. Like basically, he's one of those guys on the beach with the metal detector going dee 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 dee, and then like digging up garbage, right?
Bottle caps.
And apparently his family was like super superstitious and or at least believed in all of these kind of contemporary superstitions of the time about like witches and things like that.
Necromancy being
Yeah.
one of them. So this Kolob planet star,
Yeah.
is this the one where, because there's a belief within Mormonism that when you die you become your own god and are like you have dominion over your own planet or solar system or something.
Oh wow, you get a planet.
You get
when
you become
die.
a god when you die. So like that to like a 12-year-old growing up in Mormonism would be like, fuck yeah, I get to be a god when I die. So super appealing, right? But how do you justify that kind of thing? Like how do you justify that? What leads you to say that you become this god when you die? Because no one knows what happens after you die. No one's come back from death, and told about it. No one has been dead for an extended period, come back and been like, hey, I was a god on my own planet, yo. You gotta check this shit out. Never happened.
Are there any other religions other than Scientology that appear to be so much so a con? Because I find
This one,
yeah, that's what I mean. It does seem to be just a con,
right?
whereas other religions do seem to be, in a sense, a crazy person setting forth some ideas, kind of thing. Someone that's had
this
visions.
seems like
that
it was a
believes
deliberate
it.
con. Yeah.
Right.
This one is like Mormonism is more of the more like recognizably, objectively connish.
Yeah, I don't
religions.
think Joseph Smith was like a zealot.
Right.
Who just like had this.
Who was hallucinating and talking to burning bushes and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
He went out and went
Yeah,
and
pretty
wrote up
much.
some shit.
He was basically raised to be
a con man.
a con man. Yeah.
Like he wasn't the type of person to contemplate something under a Bodhi tree and write a whole series of lectures about his insights into the universe. He just woke up one day and he was like, you know what? Golden tablets.
Right.
Yeah.
His epiphany was, this is how I will calm the people.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a great idea.
Angels.
And immediately a lot of the earliest sort of doctrine that would like become the doctrine of this church is sort of defensive stuff that's meant to try and keep up the charade.
Yeah. Well, it does
and
reveal, in a
protect
sense,
it.
a
So-
sense of insecurity in it.
Yeah, so like right away he just invents like 11 witnesses because obviously people are having a hard time buying that this guy is looking into a hat at magic gold tablets. This guy who's clearly not rich, as if he's got like 10 pounds of gold in his hat, you know. So he can't show that to anyone. So most normal people aren't believing that shit. But they say, oh, if you can bring me other people who if you show those tablets to other people, and if you can bring me other people who have seen them, then that makes it more believable, right? So he comes up with like these 3 witnesses who basically go out into the forest with him and pray to see the tablets, because God doesn't want necessarily everyone to be shown the tablets, because oh yeah, I guess people would want to steal the tablets. Yeah, that's the ticket. So I can't show the tablets to other people willy-nilly. No, I can't appeal to the police or to all of the other ways that rich people in current society actually do protect their wealth. No, so what I'll do is I'll come up with this other spiritual magic pretext where I get 3 people to go into the forest, and they can see the tablets by praying, and then if God so chooses, he can show them the tablets in a vision. So right off the bat, 3 of the witnesses have not necessarily physically seen the tablets. They prayed, and then God chose to appear before them and then go, see, look, and started flipping the pages so that they could actually see the pages of it and see this book. That's how it's described actually in their book, in their scripture.
He went to the lengths of writing this shit down.
Yeah.
And people just eat it up.
Yeah, and then in the other 8 witnesses that they talk about, they talk about this right at the front of the book, by the way, because the first thing they got to do is be all defensive about whether or not this shit is true.
Just right away, right from the beginning, they're on the defensive.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Okay,
right off the bat. I know this is bullshit sounding,
but stay with me, all right?
But stay with me. There are witnesses, so these are the witness guys. So
hear me out,
so
okay?
just let me prime you with the fact that there are witnesses who can confirm.
Just want to get that out of the way.
Yeah. So out of the 8 witnesses, half of them are his immediate family. His dad, the guy who
taught him to be
a con man, and a couple of his brothers.
Right. So like it's like a crime family.
Yeah, totally. So it's like none of them are impartial third parties who have nothing to do with Joseph. No. They're like handpicked by Joseph because, according to Joseph, God told him who to use as witnesses. You know, so they just happen to be people that Joseph picks.
Okay,
I like that crime family analogy. It's like they're shaking down the people as they're arriving in Salt Lake City. Like, nice population you got there. Be a shame if some religion happened to them. You know?
Is it possible that that some people can't think, like in the sense that?
I don't think it's a different kinds of people.
No.
I think it's more about context and society, and like if you grow up in a culture and stuff where religion is a thing and it has a certain built-in credibility and sacredness to it, right? So if you can cast whatever new thing you're bringing up as something that has built-in credibility to it, then already you're kind of short-circuiting the normal reasoning that most people automatically have, because you're invoking those things that are meant to short circuit that. You know, like this whole idea of a leap of faith.
Right.
But it's also
you don't get into the kingdom of God like that kind of shakedown ultimatum. You know, you don't get into the kingdom of God unless you just completely submit and don't ask too many questions. You know,
it's also important to contextualize this particular religion. Like it is an American religion, and America itself was founded by people who were too extreme for the extreme religious believers.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking.
Right? Like, there's this idea of religiosity ingrained in the American psyche.
Yeah, it was started by a bunch of Puritans, you know,
who were too extreme for the extremists in England. They came over here because they were being persecuted for their really crazy religious ideas.
So you've got a society of people that are kind of primed for religious adherence, right? And
and we're seeing what that leads to now, in a sense, in the world, in the state of the peoples, we could say, in the United States,
Right.
the division of the peoples and stuff. And
Yeah, because that kind of extreme paranoia stuck with them after having come over from England. You know.
well, I think that knowledge and the seeking of knowledge has a certain paranoid element to it. Does that not make sense? This is something that I'm getting from Lacan would suggest that knowledge has a paranoid element to it.
Okay, go
the
on.
Seeking of.
Elaborate about that.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Do you want to build on that a little bit?
I'm not sure how.
So
I'm immediately paranoid to do so.
So in what sense is knowledge
Well, if we're thinking about
related to paranoia, or how does paranoia affect the seeking of knowledge?
why would we, in a sense, why would we lay claim to anything unless we were scared and felt a necessity to do so?
I'm not sure I understand that
Like
question.
Let's say we were.
Are you
born,
talking about like a fear of the unknown causes us to seek to fill in those?
Well, there's no
those
seeking,
gaps of
but in the
unknownness?
unknown, there would be no seeking unless something were unknown. If we knew everything, there would be no seeking. So there is, in confronting the unknown, we would be paranoid. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean by paranoid in the context of this particular discussion?
Well, I guess I'm speaking pretty abstractly there, in terms of the seeking of knowledge as having a paranoid element.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, what do you mean by paranoid element?
Doesn't paranoid mean like you're afraid of something? That's what paranoid means.
Well, sure, yeah, and we were just talking about how in facing the unknown, there is a paranoid feeling, or there can be, right? It's very rare that we're facing something we don't know.
Seeking knowledge is like a kind of balm or a prophylactic or something.
Prophylactic?
a prophylactic ball of seeking.
To assuage the
fear
of the unknown.
Is that what you're getting at?
Well, it's a reaction, yeah.
So seeking knowledge is a step that we take to try and fix the paranoia that we have when we see unknownness.
Yes, right. In a sense,
or when we don't know stuff.
There would have to be a problem to be seeking in the first place. Otherwise, we wouldn't be seeking. Like, we don't go out looking for food if we're not hungry.
Right.
We're just already fed. There is no seeking.
How did this come up?
I can't remember. I'm sure it was my fault. I'm sorry.
So let's talk about that. The made up.
Wait. Going back on your thing about the Puritans.
Oh,
and
right.
everything.
Okay, yeah. Go for it.
So I had a thought that like part of this whole thing is how they wrap up the American Indian or the First Nations and stuff into this, and how the Native Americans were actually Jewish people or people of Israel.
Yeah.
And that Jesus had, after his resurrection, had actually visited America. To me, that totally smacks of the whole issue that you bring up. Like, you've got this new society of Puritans and stuff that are now feeling sort of isolated from the epicenter of Christianity, which is like a pillar of their social existence, right? That they come from
Back in Europe.
but not back in Europe. This is just like a few decades after the establishment of the states of the U.S. as an independent country, right? And so they kind of build into the lore of this new church. They're definitely filling a void that you could see would exist for these New World Puritans. They're isolated from the epicenter of Christianity, so they bring some kind of epicenter of a kind of Christianity right to themselves, you know. So now they have like this thing that challenges the paranoia, right? And it gives them confidence and it gives them something to plant their feet, and they don't feel like they're no longer people who are in some sense cast away from their roots in Europe.
They're no longer on the fringes.
They're right there. They're in the place where Jesus went and
the Garden of Eden was.
And they're the one and they're the ones that are upholding Jesus's church.
In a sense, it's making it more tangible for the people.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. this notion that the Garden of Eden was in Missouri, that's making them even more special because we're right in the middle of it.
So it just speaks to that the convenient nature of it, right? Like they invent a story that of Jesus visiting America to address this very kind of maybe obvious feature that you might be able to observe on a kind of anthropological level of these people who are religious coming to the New World.
Religious circle jerk.
I guess something maybe I was touching on before. Often when I talk, I'm trying to figure out what the hell I'm trying to say because I don't know what I'm saying while I'm saying it, sort of thing. So returning back to that idea of
paranoia?
I can see. No, I was thinking of that idea of I can see how something that is a lie can be used as a crutch to stand a person up, for example.
Yeah.
But then for it to become the whole health is the issue, I guess. Right? Like in a sense, the crutch has to be abandoned and you have to continue on. Sort of thing.
Right.
So I can see how a religion, even in its fakeness, can be used, but it can't be.
It's like being addicted to a drug.
I suppose. That's a good example. Like you have to get off of it afterwards.
Yeah, like in another way, like there is definitely an advantage to metaphor and story and all that kind of stuff in teaching, because like you said, there's a limit to language and our ability to communicate complex ideas. So you adopt these metaphors and these stories in order to try to explain them better.
Yeah.
But what happens in the case of, like, let's say religion, is those stories tend to become less metaphorical in some people's minds and start to become representations of reality. And that's when people start to lean on the crutch too much and forget that it's a crutch at all. The story itself was supposed to be that crutch, but now it's the entire story.
Right.
Right?
In a sense, it's not the fault of the religion, but the people holding that religion up.
If that
makes sense. Right? Like,
to an extent, yes, but I think it is also the responsibility, or the religion itself is also to blame at the same time as it's the people who perpetuate the religion who are to blame. Like they're you can't really disentangle one from the other, I don't think. Can you?
I mean, we can. Doesn't mean we're doing anything by doing it or anything like that. It just becomes Bertrand Russell. Ripping shit apart and going, that's more something now that I've ripped it apart. I understand it better. Better words.
Getting your hate on for Russell today.
Yeah, no, I don't know. It's not even true, but I love picking on him. If he were here, I'd be poking at him a lot.
Yeah. If he were here.
And he would laugh.
Huh?
And he would like me.
Yeah, I was slagging off Wittgenstein earlier, so I think this is just Luke getting back at me.
Yes, I love Wittgenstein, it's true.
All right, final thoughts on the... Actually, no, before we go into the final thought thing, I just wanted to touch briefly on the made-up language that these stupid tablets were supposed to be written in.
Oh, yeah. Is it like a speaking in tongues kind of thing?
No, the thing is, they claim that it was native. The tablets are written in the native languages. The Native American languages.
Like a made-up native language.
Yeah, but it's...
He made up a language called Reformed Egyptian, and it was taken from Egypt and brought here, and it was now the native language in North America. And it was in that language that these magical tablets were written. And since he made this shit up, no one can question him on it, right? Like, no one can go and read them and be like, no, hey, you made a mistake on page 3. Because he made the
Well, I mean, you're kind of leaving evidence with like some of the names and stuff.
Right.
You can if you do a linguistic analysis of that, or more of a historical kind of linguistic analysis of it, you can see the lack of common root or whatever. There's nothing common to the kinds of words he's making up in the book to actual native languages that we actually know a lot about, right? Like,
and if you question anyone about it, they're going to invoke special pleading again, and they'll tell you, well, yeah, no, it doesn't exist outside of Mormonism, but inside Mormonism, that's what, it's real if we say it's real for us.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist. It's not a real language, never was, there's no syntax to it, It was completely made up. Another con by a con man.
Mm-hmm.
No amount of special pleading will make this language a real thing.
Yeah.
No amount of belief makes something a fact.
Do these tablets with this mysterious language actually exist now, in the sense that a linguist could now look at it and attempt to try and make it meaningful?
God took them right back after.
Okay, right. So they don't actually even exist.
They were on loan from God.
Not even the seeing stones, because that's how Joseph Smith says he translated. He put the tablets in a hat, and then he put his head inside the hat, and he had these little stones that he had to look through at the text.
I think the stones were supposed to be from like the shield of an archangel or something, from the angel Moroni.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that whole extra bit of material there. So God apparently took back the tablets, but I guess he also took back the seeing stones.
Right.
Not the religion though. Didn't take the religion back.
Yeah,
oh no, let that flourish.
Gotta have my stones back. I gotta party.
I got another planet.
They're not made of gold and stuff, so I don't know why the same argument for why he couldn't show the tablets to anyone, them being gold. Why the same argument
God's
doesn't
gonna
apply
take
to
them
the
back.
seeing stones?
God had them on loan from the Louvre, and he's gonna bring them back there by Tuesday. Otherwise,
He'll get dinged 5 cents.
It's a really big fine
for a late library fee
of golden tablets.
So I'm curious to know if you have any thoughts towards how does one flick the switch of rational thought on with someone.
That's a problem. Like, how do you convince somebody who doesn't value logic that logic should be valued?
So
how do you convince somebody that?
Well, the complication in there is that the switch is commonly flicked on for them just for things outside of the compartment of the religious part of their psyche, of their worldview, of their ideology. So it's that compartmentalization. People are able to be rational people who are skeptical and analytical of everything, but they're also able to be really good at rationalizing why they shouldn't do that to this one other area of.
So they are using irrationality. I think I've talked about this before, where it's like they're using a logic, but their variables are fucked.
Right.
So in fucking with your variables, you can then create all sorts of nonsense logics, kind of thing.
Yeah, and they say, I mean, like there's studies on this that often
it must be true then.
Often the more intelligent or educated you are, the better you become at rationalizing irrational things.
Right. Because you have those capacities.
You have the tools
to do it.
To be able to really to really bullshit well,
bullshit yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And we do, in a sense,
We've
make
all done
these.
it.
We all bullshit ourselves.
Oh yeah.
We all take these leaps of faith in things every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like
I came here taking a leap of faith. I don't know what the fuck I was thinking. Podcast?
Yeah.
Only done 51 of them.
Yeah, this whole time I don't know what the fuck I'm thinking.
But yeah, we become really good at convincing ourselves or rationalizing our beliefs. And to me, like that's why it's really important for me to hold, as Matt Dillahunty says, as many true beliefs as possible and reject as many false beliefs as I can, so that my internal model of reality can as closely match objective reality as we can reasonably get to.
I'm still curious about things like, I think of Albert Einstein being presented with the math for the Big Bang.
Mm-hmm.
And him going, wow, your math is great, but no. So why that then? What are the walls that are put up by also logic, in a sense? Because what I'm suggesting is that there are walls put up all the time. We do have our walls up. It's very rare that you can encounter an individual that is able to accept, in a sense, reality coming at you spontaneously, sort of thing. So I often think of that scenario because, Albert Einstein, we hold that guy up pretty high in terms of logic, and he's set out some pretty good shit there, But he still rejected it. originally, and it really was only years and a decade later that he went, you know what, that guy with the Big Bang thing, and the math, I remember that guy, That's
So
some good
your
shit.
question was, how do you get someone to flip that switch? Right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think one of the best ways
Break down the wall.
Yeah, one of the best ways I think to break down the walls is to just have a conversation with somebody and ask them questions, get them to question their own beliefs.
So the Socratic method.
The Socratic
Yes.
method, exactly. Yeah, like
That seems to be the only thing that I've ever observed to have any iota of effect in terms of getting someone to be sincere in or open in actually challenging the things that they take for granted.
Because you can spout as many facts and logical fallacies as you want, but if someone's walls are up, you're not going to get through to anyone.
And that just causes them to build the wall higher.
Right, exactly. But if you actually ask them questions and talk to them, meet them where they're at, and then just ask them, why do you and then just take the situation they present and try to twist it a little bit. So, so you believe this. Well, does that include X? And why doesn't it include Y? And get them thinking about their own beliefs and questioning them on their own. And that'll lead them, hopefully, to abandon anything that doesn't kind of make sense after thinking about it for an extended period of time. Like Anthony Magnabosco applies this idea of street epistemology to people, where he'll just engage with people one-on-one for 5 minutes. And he'll set a timer
right.
on a sidewalk or whatever, and he'll just question them and just expose the flaws, get them to expose the flaws in their own thinking.
Like, for example, we in a sense failed when we had that forced birth guy on.
Forced birth.
Yeah.
And we all felt like shit afterwards that we weren't able to get him to question himself.
No,
right.
Because we tried to meet his assertions with our assertions,
right.
and
well, it just left us
hopefully
going,
facts.
And looking back and forth at each other nervously, basically. We can't really do much with this guy. We couldn't do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we did not succeed.
No,
No, you're right. You're right. And
so I think next time I have a conversation with a forced birth guy, I want to have some sort of an idea of some more innocuous questions to ask him, so that he's thinking about
excuse me.
He's thinking about how to answer the things that that I can't accept with that worldview. Right.
Yeah, this notion of street epistemology is something I really want to learn how to do. Something I want to pick up and just kind of apply to these conversations, because it's really interesting to see in action. I don't know if you've ever seen one of his videos, but you can see the wheels turning in the people that he's talking to. Right, they're actually thinking now, and sometimes you can see them hit the wall when they're
one question he asks almost all the time right off the bat is rate your level of confidence in your belief
from 1 to 10
in whatever thing it is that they believe in, on a scale of 1 to 100.
1 to 100, right?
Holy shit! Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I'm about
I would with all of my beliefs probably rate myself pretty low.
So a lot of these people, if the belief that they like because he starts off saying, I just like to talk to people about their beliefs and ask them questions about their beliefs and stuff, and so if the belief can be something other than the belief in God, but usually it's God, right? And so when they're declaring their faith in God or their confidence in the existence of God, most people actually, they want to say right off the bat, oh yeah, 100%. And then he has follow-up questions where he's like, oh, okay, so you've never had any doubt, and when you see somebody else who has 100% belief in something else, that might contradict or be that might contradict what I'm believing in or what you're believing in, then then do you see that conflict there, or how do you tell which one is right?
How do you resolve that difference?
Do you think then that person would be wrong in saying 100% and that they should maybe go lower, and then as he kind of susses that kind of line of questioning out, then he asks the person, like, so are you sure you want to be at like 100%, like you have no doubt in your ability to know what's right, like you've never been wrong about anything or something like that, and then they'll go, okay, maybe I'll go down to like a 90%.
So right there, in a sense, he's using a deep psychology to chip away at them. Sort of thing.
He leaves everything
and them
up.
acknowledge it.
He leaves everything up to them. Like the doubt springs from
it's
their
all
mind.
open questions, right? But
I'd love to see him.
They end up chipping away at their own hubris and like super confidence that they have in things that they have no business being super confident in.
Right.
You know?
Right. I'd love to see him go up against Jesus Christ himself, sort of thing. In a sense that there's a difference between someone that believes in God and someone that goes, no, I am with God.
Yeah.
Because we can say that there was only one Christian ever, and that was Jesus.
If there was even a singular person named Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Which is another story. But
Yeah.
But
final thoughts on
hey, we should do a historicity of Jesus.
Let's do that. That is a thing we will do.
Historicity?
You
That's
heard
what
it
they
here
call it.
first.
Sounds like an operation
the debate between
to not have children.
Between
The mythicist position and the historical
mythicism
position.
or historicity. Yeah.
We're going to get into it a little bit, but I think I would lean more towards the mythicist position. I don't think there was a single person named Jesus. If like the character in the Bible is anything, I would think it's an amalgamation of a bunch of different people who lived in the same kind of contemporary vicinity to one another, like Simon Magus and all these other messiahs who sprung out around the same time, kind of became the figure that we have, that we refer to as Jesus now,
Yeah, it follows too much. I think I lean more toward a mythicist concept, but I'm willing to accept that there's a possibility that there was a sort of charismatic preacher.
Right, I'm going to say it's a combo
rabbi
of both.
who kind of stirred the pot a bit and got the Romans' attention.
Yeah, like another Socrates, basically.
Sort of,
that caused social mischief, like basically a revolutionary.
Middle East Socrates.
Anyway.
Final thoughts on Mormonism.
Yeah.
Well, I need to get me some new undies, it sounds like. Some magic ones.
Magic undies.
Well, what do they do? Do they do anything?
They're just a shield against vice.
Well, that's
and sin.
I'm like, wise to avoid vice. What are some good times
that's
there?
The thing,
taking off these underwears.
Aside from some aspects of the doctrine of the church, which are like super atavistic and racist and misogynistic, those are things that are pretty much shared by every other religion, except for maybe like Jainism.
Yeah.
And maybe Buddhism, I guess. But I think Buddhism has
Taoism, are we
too.
Including Taoism?
There's some extreme Buddhists.
Yeah. But
which doesn't make any sense.
But aside from those things which to a large extent can just be ascribed to the context of the guys who created the church or who restored it. Okay, fine. The religion as it's kind of manifested by the people who follow Mormonism, it seems like ultimately they're all kind of fine, like they're all good people, not all good people, I just mean in the grand scheme of things they're just as prone to being good people as Catholics or Protestants of one color or another. And it's like a religion of soccer moms or something, like it's there's a lot of like benignness in it and stuff that, like I said before, is like useful for living a happy life, I guess, like they have this thing called like family home night or something. So like once a week the family can't just like the kids can't all just go fuck off to the mall, and the parents are like the dad is like watching TV and the mom is in the den doing her thing. No, they have like a set night where there's no TV. Everybody just plays games. They talk together. So that's like a central kind of practice of their religion, to have the family home. And that's kind of a great thing. There's nothing really wrong with that.
I wish we did have, in a sense, other worlds to look to see what it would be like. Okay, this world did have religions and this one went off in the other direction, so that we could actually compare societies and see how things developed differently. And because we don't actually have that sample experiment.
Mm-hmm.
We do. The Paraha, they're a tribe in the Amazon, I think it is, or somewhere in that. Anyway, they're an isolated tribe that has no concept of God.
Okay.
None whatsoever.
Okay.
Yeah,
do they have any sort of belief system or anything
about them
like
is that we don't really know much about them aside from this one anthropologist that researched them pretty much. And so there have been claims that it's like the one language on the planet that we found that doesn't use recursiveness. So there's like some linguistic stuff about them, and another thing is like that they don't really have a concept of past or future.
Right.
Something like that, in at least in their language, like everything is
that
just
sounds great.
Sort of bound to the present or something. So it's difficult to tell. It's difficult to tell what is coming out of the sort of philosophical imagination of the anthropologist that is looking at this, like what's just stuff that's being filtered through his lens, and what is objective sort of facts about the society. But it's true. It's one of those isolated tribes that have pretty much had no contact with the more like globalized kind of.
There, for example, could be an example of a peoples that doesn't have to think of God because they're with God. In removing the past and the future, they become all Jesuses. In the sense that they become the Jizai. Yeah. Like there doesn't have to be the thought of it. Like in a sense, it's only in the removal of not being with God that you have to have a belief in God. If you were with God, you would not have to believe in it.
Yeah.
That's it. I'm starting a new religion.
Yeah.
Reformed Jesusism.
So what is with people that believe
in
God?
Ironic how religious Christians will define atheism as separation from God, whereas
we could be claiming the exact opposite.
Atheists who are living completely fulfilling lives as either just atheists or humanists or whatever, they can't really cast it as a separation from God because they don't feel anything missing out of their lives.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There is no lack. God comes from the lack.
And adhering to a religion is can only be an act of somebody who finds something lacking if they don't have that. You know, they're the ones that are separated from God if they have to latch on to this
dogma,
to this human structure called the religion.
Right. So in believing in God, they are making their declaration that they do not authentically believe in God.
I like where that's going.
Yeah, I like that. But that can get dangerously close to just a sort of like a sophist kind of
no true Scotsman
attack.
Fallacy.
You know,
well, and so it resembles a sophist.
Yeah.
That's your final thought? I like that. That's a good one. Make that your final thought. Cause
no, awesome. I refuse to have final thoughts.
That is your final thought. Right. I've declared it.
And that's my final thought, right? That I have no final thoughts.
Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Final thoughts? Maybe check out the South Park episode on Joseph Smith and Mormonism. That was it's great. It gives
I'd love to be able to afford to go see the Broadway play as well.
The Book of
Mormon. The Book of Mormon play.
I hear it's hilarious though.
Yeah. So creators of South Park, if you're listening and want to sponsor the show for this awesome shout out, love it. Or even free tickets to the Book of Mormon, we'll take them.
Yeah.
As for myself, I think I've said it all. I have to encapsulate though. It's fucking bullshit. It's fucking bullshit. It was founded on a monumental lie. by a con artist who was accused of treason against the state of Missouri. Magic underwear. Take off your magic underwear. Go look up some Mormon porn on Pornhub. Guaranteed to be a good time for everybody.
When I hear that, I also think I can't possibly trust the council of whatever, accused him of treason. I also don't trust them either. It's like saying the cops arrested him. Yeah, so it doesn't mean he's guilty.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyways.
Anyway.
No, but if you look at the other sort of uncontested deeds of Joseph himself.
Right. Meanwhile, it is the one authentic thing he really did do, and he really did have these experiences, and
that would be hilarious.
All over him.
But in reality, his biggest con became his greatest success.
Yeah, his most unrealistic,
Right.
most absurd is the one that got him the most,
stuck.
kind of thing. Yeah, he had to top all of his other ones. Maybe if I just stop making sense, they'll fall for it.
I gotta go way out there.
They won't be able. Yeah, I gotta go way up
with the magic underwear and the seeing stones.
What's that expression about, like, the bigger the lie, the...
Oh, fuck. Yeah. I can't remember how that goes, but yeah, something like that.
Like if you want someone to really believe you're a lie, you have to make it a big one or something.
Go big or go home.
Yeah.
Anyway. This has been Critical Junction, episode 51. I'm Mark.
I'm Luke.
I'm Jill.
As always, thanks for listening, and until next time, keep thinking critically.